Hi, this is Clint Cora. Today I'm going to talk about scuba diving in Honduras, which is in Central America, namely in the Bay Islands of Roatan and Utila. So I've been down to scuba dive in Honduras once so far, and I loved it. So here's what I like about scuba diving down there. First of all, the quality of the scuba diving. It's actually quite decent. I would say it's a little above average compared to standard Caribbean scuba diving. Also, it's far away enough from the main hurricane belt in the Caribbean, so even if you're caught in the middle of the hurricane season, the hurricanes aren't really going to affect the Bay Islands. And the other point, Honduras is very affordable compared to many destinations in the Caribbean. And this includes the scuba diving and the accommodations. Much cheaper compared to islands like the Bahamas or the Cayman Islands, but you still get really good scuba diving. Okay, so here's the complication. What I didn't like about going to Honduras for scuba diving. It's the travel. Now, depending on where you're coming from, there could be some very tricky travel complications. First of all, the only international airport is in Roatan. Now, if you live in the southern United States, like in Texas or Florida, you wouldn't have a problem. They fly out to Roatan on a regular basis. Now, if you're like me from Canada, sometimes you might get a direct flight from Toronto to Roatan. And I say sometimes. It's only in season and only in certain years. It seems that some years they don't even bother. So you have to really see when they actually fly down there. Now, if you're going to Utila, that's even more complicated. There is no international airport in Utila. So to get to Utila, which is what I did, you have to fly into Roatan first. And sometimes, some days, there is a ferry service between Roatan and Utila, but not every day. In fact, most days they don't. Usually, you have to take two ferries, and this is what I had to do. So after you land in Roatan, you have to take a ferry that's about an hour and a half in duration to the mainland of Honduras. And then from there, you have to take a second ferry to Utila, which is another hour and a half. So overall, you're paying for two ferries, total of maybe $40 to $50 US, and 3 to 4 hours of transit time. So it's a lot of travel. Now, if you're willing to pay for it, there is a faster way. You can actually fly into Utila from Roatan via small propeller airplanes. This will cost you anywhere from $150 to $200 US one way. So if you're willing to spend that chunk of change, then by all means, you can get to Utila pretty quick. If you want to go from Utila to Roatan, if you can find a guy in Utila with a fast boat, like a speedboat, which is what I did, he charges only $50 for a fast 1.5 hour, 2 hour, bumpy but thrilling fast ride from Utila all the way to Roatan. So that's just another travel option, but you have to look for those local people. Okay, so the differences between Utila and Roatan. First of all, Roatan is the more developed island. It's the bigger island. It's the island where more tourists go to. There are some what we call standard vacation type of resorts there, so you will see, mass tourism there. Maybe not as mass touristy as, let's say, the Bahamas, but you still get some general tourists there. There's also a cruise ship port, so you do get cruise ship passengers there as well. So the infrastructure there is much more developed in Roatan, but it's still cheaper than many of the Caribbean islands. Now in Utila, much far less development. In fact, hardly any tourists actually go to Utila except for scuba divers. You might see, depending on the weekend, you might see some local Hondurans from the mainland coming into Utila, but that's really about it. But Utila, the whole island is basically set up for scuba diving, so lots of dive shops, lots of diving to be had. Now, the other difference is that for Utila, there is a whale shark season every spring. So technically, you should be able to see some whale sharks, although for my trip, I did go down in April, and we spent 3 days, and we didn't see one whale shark, so I was quite disappointed. Now, here's some typical marine life that you'll see underwater in the Bay Islands.